Hi, good morning, everyone. This is your 30-minute short takes and updates. I am Joy in Hiroshima.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tove in, Yokohama, just outside Tokyo.
And we are both sustainability-focused consultants, and we are collaborating on some exciting projects. Let's just mention that in March 21st on the national holiday, save the date, and join us online or in person in Tokyo or in Hiroshima. Very excited about finding great speakers and everything. So please make sure you save the date for that. Now, we're going to talk about some news that's been on our radar, as well as some holiday shopping tips. So Tove, you want to start us off with this great news article?
Yeah, well, this is something that popped up in my LinkedIn feed earlier this week. And it really caught my eye because anyone who is in Japan will have noticed over the years that old buildings generally get pulled down, right? And then they build new from scratch. That's sort of the accepted practice. It's sort of often seen as more desirable to have your own house that, it's new, you've built it, you've kind of chosen the bits and stuff. But obviously it's not very sustainable, and the environmental impact, not to mention the costs of pulling down a building and completely rebuilding, and the waste that's created through that. It's pretty shocking when you start to look at the numbers. So I was really quite surprised, but in a very pleasant way, to see that article that this apartment building is 50 years old. Ordinarily now it'd be due to come down and something new would pop up in its place, but they're going to completely reform it. And they mention in the article that the difference in carbon footprint of that. And I can't remember, I've got the exact numbers there somewhere, but it's huge, right? So I've just got the numbers here. So rebuilding it from scratch, would produce the equivalent of 2,375 tons of CO2, quite a lot. Refurbishing it, however, we're looking at about 654 tons. So that is massively, massively different. And not to mention, that the costs are lower, the time to do it is, a lot quicker, so they can turn it around. So it's more sustainable, more viable in terms of business as well. But it just, for me, that signals perhaps a bit of a change in mindset that's happening, which was really refreshing.
And I talked to Akiya&Inaka, Matt Ketchum, the other day, and the whole remodel old houses in Japan market is huge as well, for people having holiday homes or weekend homes or transitioning to a rural life in Japan. So that's really exciting. But this is one of the first articles I've seen as well about an apartment block being remodeled instead of torn down. So there's so many great knock-on effects of sustainability in terms of not only the environmental effects, but I think retaining a sense of community as well for the original building and heritage. And I love things from the past. Most people do, as long as it's done in a stylish way.
Exactly. So perhaps this will help people think a little more long term when they're building or designing their own places, right? Because if you're building it and you're thinking it's only got a 40 or 50 year lifespan, then there's not really a lot of incentive to make it, to build it really well, is there? Or to go extra expense, extra time and effort of putting in sort of more eco features, like sort of much better insulation and stuff like this. If it's going to come down, it's is it really worth it? That sort of mindset, I think, is beginning to shift. If you're thinking long term, it's like, well, actually, we want this to last and be good and to still look good in 50 years or more. So hopefully that's going to begin to change how people look at and appreciate these buildings as well.
Definitely. And hopefully, if this kind of thing takes off, not only are people looking at remodeling, refurbishing, making it last longer, but also building to last longer, right? Building of a higher quality. That'll be great. Great to see.
Exactly. So
all right, I'm going to give some holiday shopping tips, if that's okay. So my first one, which I've put on my website, I really like this company. It's NEWSED. So it's like new and used put together. News. And they've got there's a Japanese company. They've got some really great products here that you can, shop for. Everybody's kind of looking for Christmas now. We've got to shop in advance because there's some supply chain issues, right?
Yeah.
So that's my first tip. Another tip, which I think you probably know, Tove, she is a female entrepreneur in Tokyo, but she ships all over the world as well as within Japan. She uses vintage kimono to make accessories like earrings, necklaces, keychains. And it's all really beautifully done. And I love her packaging as well, Biku Designs.
Yeah.
And the
It's
third
really
one I'd
lovely.
like to give a little shout out to. I know a lot of people are looking for special pictures for family, couple, or even yourself at this time of year. And Stasia Matsumoto, she does In Kimono, and
Okay.
she is a kimono stylist as well as a great photographer. And
Oh,
she'll
wow.
take people around this cute retro area in Tokyo and take beautiful photos. She is very into like inclusiveness. So I know she's worked with some women who needed plus size kimono who
Yeah.
it's difficult to rent.
Brilliant.
People with tattoos, different looks. So very inclusive and diversive. It was wonderful to talk to her on the series as well.
Fantastic. No, that sounds great. And here in Tokyo, of course, we're lucky we've got Tia Haygood from Top Tier Photography as well, who is, brilliant. And for anyone like me who's not particularly comfortable in front of the camera, particularly, when you're trying to look professional and approachable, but, not too stiff, she's fantastic at helping you feel comfortable. She's also wonderful family shots and things like that, because anyone who's got kids knows that photographing with kids is not easy.
She's very talented. I had some photos with toptia.com, I believe is her website. And she knows how to get the right expression and give you advice about how to lean forward or something. So you just look better in the photos. She has a lot of great know-how there.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
For sure. The next recommendation is a really interesting one. Now, you might have seen in Europe, Freetag. Have you heard the company Freetag?
Freetag, no, I don't know them.
They were taking the plastic covers from the trucks that was being thrown away, and they were upcycling and making great looking bags. Now, this is a Japanese company that's doing the same thing with Japanese plastic signs, like temporary signs that go on the freeway. And so if you search Rakuten, unfortunately, they're not selling it directly anymore. I think it was maybe too difficult, that online shop system. But if you look at Rakuten and search Hataraku Tote or Ru Tote, I'll put the link below. But they're all original because they're all from different parts of the banners and reused into these cool like work bags or tote bags or backpacks. So I really like that.
Oh, that's great. That really reminds me of there's a company in the UK called Elvis and Cressy, or Cressy, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but they have a similar idea. So they started off collecting old fire hoses from the fire brigade, so that they've got these hoses made of really tough rubber, but as soon as it's had a certain sort of amount of use or whatever, they can't use it for safety reasons. And so it was wasted, all this material. So they started collecting those a few years back and making incredible bags out of them, handbags and things like this. And then they started working with Burberry, getting all the offcuts of leather, so that when Burberry make their beautiful bags and things, there are all these bits that just get wasted ordinarily. So Elvis and Cressy collect those and weave them into designs and stuff. So it's all sort of minimal or zero waste as much as possible. The whole process, they're registered B Corp, and 50% of their profits, I think, go to the fire brigade charities and things. So it's just a wonderful business model, but it's sort of sustainable luxury. They're quite sort of high end. They're all handmade and they're absolutely beautiful. They're men's bags, women's bags, purses, wallets and stuff like that. And I think that's such an incredible approach to business, right? To look at what was waste for one industry or company, and to take it and to make something beautiful and wonderful, like Victoria with her Biku designs as well.
Yeah,
Great business
absolutely.
model.
And very connected to the next recommendation, Mikan bags. Now, this is a French designer. She's based in Kyushu now, but she was in Kyoto for a long time. And she upcycles beautiful kimono material. And it's called Mikan bags. So I think I put all the links below, but I'll make sure they are. And I did a collaboration with her last year, and we did a beautiful kimono material wristband with a mask inside.
Fantastic.
So a masklet. I'm not sure if she's still doing that now, but she has such very high quality, very beautiful handcrafted bags, backpacks, purses, that kind of thing. And she also does like online sewing classes. So if you're interested in trying, like a lot of us, we go around these great flea markets around Japan, and you can get this beautiful kimono material quite cheaply. But you don't really know what to do with it. So I think maybe Victoria from Biku Design, she also does this sometimes. They do like an online workshop, so you can learn how to make something nice from your material. I love that.
That would be really, really good, actually. Yeah, upcycling.
I don't sew myself. Do you sew?
I can manage buttons or repairing the odd bit. That's about my level. But it's something I've always thought, my grandmother would always just make herself something. She'd make a dress or a suit or a skirt. And I think, wow, I'd love to be able to have that skill. It's so practical. It's wonderfully sustainable if you're able to change things and recycle them and upcycle them. So it's something, if I have time ever, I would love to be able to do. But
I love that my son in high school in Japan had a sewing class, and so he learned how to use the sewing machine. And I got really excited. I bought him a sewing machine that year, and I'm like putting in all these orders of things that I want him to do for me. And he's lost interest, unfortunately. My hopes are on my daughter, who's going into high school now.
Right. Okay. She's next. No pressure.
The next one I wanted to give a shout out is Peko Peko Box. And they do these beautiful gift boxes with a variety of different items from local, like small artisans and local shops in Japan. And very similar, but centered on food, is Kokoro care packages. And they're run by two women. One's in Tokyo, one's in LA, California. And they send these great, like local food stuffs, which are made by very small makers around Japan, and they'll send it around the world. So I know people are looking for Japan things, but shipping it abroad is often really hard right now.
Right.
So Peko Peko Box, they've got all the shipping under control, and they know how to do it so well.
Brilliant.
They've got a nice variety of stuff. Some stuff is sold out already, so I would recommend, having a look. And Kokoro Care Package, because they're in America and Japan, I know they can do shipping maybe a bit faster in the States or Japan as well.
Fantastic.
Did you want to talk about REI? I think we have time.
Yeah, that would be great. So, well, maybe to backtrack a little from that. So something, one of my friends who, old friend from university, but he now lives in Cambodia, Gordon, posted a meme on his Facebook earlier this week. And it was a meme from a Terry Pratchett novel talking about the Sam Vine's Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness, and how it describes how basically, you could have a rich, or in the book, there's a rich man and a poor man, and the rich man can afford to buy really good quality boots, right? Really nicely made, high quality materials that will last for years and years and years. So he can buy that because he has the money. And then he doesn't have to spend any more on his boots for say 10 years or more. Whereas the poor person in the book has to buy the cheap boots, right? Which he knows are not going to last. He knows they're going to fall apart and be leaking, and his feet are going to hurt, and that's going to affect his health and everything. But he can't afford the big, expensive boots, the outlay. So he has to buy the cheap boots. And then he knows that next year he's going to have to replace them. So he's going to have to spend more money. So over time, he actually spends more than the rich guy because he doesn't have the initial capital to start off. He just needs that helping hand at the beginning, and then that would actually put him in a much better place and help him be a more active and, you know, contributing more to the economy and society going forward. And I thought that was a really kind of interesting way of explaining how microfinance works, actually, and where, you know, giving a small loan upfront, just enough to give people what they need to get started, is often all they need. It's not like, you know, they're going to need handouts forevermore, but if they can get that one thing at the beginning to set them up, then they're up and rolling and it becomes self-sustaining, right? And that's very much the concept that REI has with, so REI is Refugee Empowerment International, and I'm a member of the management committee there. And this project, for example, in Nairobi in Kenya, helps entrepreneurs by training them, giving them skills that they can use to set up their own businesses, but also just the funding to get started. And this guy, Bizimana, was a wonderful case study. So, you know, he had nothing, he started with nothing, but then he learned cooking skills, he learned business skills through the project, and then started his own business, and it's become really successful. And he's employed other refugees, he's employed locals as well in his business and really grown it. And I think it's just such a beautiful example of how, you know, just recognizing that people just sometimes just need a little boost, if you like, at the beginning, and then they can do it themselves. They're not going to expect, you know, to be reliant on others forever. But it's, yeah, it really made me
Isn't that
think.
a beautiful example of the microfinance like success?
Yeah.
There were so many great examples around the world, right, of the microfinance model.
Yeah.
And how if you give people very small loans to start their own businesses as entrepreneurs, they actually are building up other people in their communities and supporting other people as well, and spending it locally. It's very different from giving huge loans to big international companies, and you don't know if it's going to really help the local area or not. Like, this is very specific and very like huge change, right?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I know a lot of people coming towards the, you know, the end of the year, the gift giving season, you know, begin to think about, you know, what could they do to help others and things. And I think this is one way where, you know, that what you're giving would actually have a really long lasting and massively impactful, you know, result. So I, you know, personally, I think that that's a great way to give out and to know it's going to really come back.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you know, there's a lot of things that you can do by spending your money with meaning, right, during this holiday time. And giving people access to microloans is another way you can support with meaning. I've seen so many people talking online about, I don't really want to buy stuff this year.
Right.
Like, I don't feel this year like I want to do Black Friday and get all more stuff that people don't really need. And maybe they don't really want it. But there's a lot of people around the world who really need support, just a little bit of support, and it would make a big difference. So maybe a bit more meaning than just buying, you know, a new sweater for someone who might not like it or might not need it.
It's sit in the drawer and not get used. And
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? I think particularly for those of us with families, and, you know, my daughter's 15. She's old enough to kind of understand that it's not all about receiving your presents and things like this, whereas my son's 6, and, you know, and he's like, oh, Christmas, it's so exciting and there's going to be presents, and it's sort of hard. You don't want to kind of disappoint them, and you want them to have a wonderful experience, but like you say, it's not about stuff. So how to get that through and make sure they still have this great time and, you know, really meaningful experience, but it's not, you know, necessarily through buying them another random toy that will break in a few months anyway, and they'd be forgotten.
Absolutely. And it's about the family experience, right? Like
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of families recently who say, you know, we're going to do a special trip. We're going to go
Mhm.
somewhere where the family always has a good time together. We're going to have a
Yeah.
special meal together. I think
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, spending time in a real way where everybody puts their
Right.
phones on the side. No, those are the memories that you're going to remember. And if you do buy something, try to buy something somebody needs or really wants and you're
Yeah.
planning to use for a long time,
Yeah.
like higher
Mhm.
quality. Don't just think about the price, think about an
Right.
investment, like product that they're
Yeah.
going to enjoy using for a long time, right?
Absolutely. So fewer things, but better and more meaningful.
Yeah. Isn't that
Mm.
the Harry Potter, the cousin, right? And he's like, but I had 26 last year. You know,
That's
like
right.
it's all about quantity, not quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think most of us, hopefully, are looking more towards quality, not quantity.
Yes, very much so. And I think that sort of connects into another topic that I think a lot about it, particularly at this kind of year, which is the food waste issue, right? So we know that food waste is a massive issue. In Japan, I remember seeing the figures earlier this year. I can't remember them offhand, but the
Isn't
amount
it
of
like
food,
40% of
it's
food
it's
produced is
horrendous,
wasted?
right? And most of
It's
that
crazy.
is at our consumer end, right? We're buying stuff and then not using it before it goes off or goes out of date or whatever, or you'll use little bits of it and waste parts that we don't think to use but could actually be used and stuff like this. There's so much of that that goes on, not through bad intentions, but perhaps lack of planning, of foresight. And I know something that we'd started doing maybe about 5 years ago here in just in the family, because our schedules were so crazy. My husband and I both working full time, with the one kid at school, one kid at hoikuen, at daycare, and trying to organize all of this. And you'd get home and go, what are we going to cook for dinner? And there's this, but I don't have that thing that I need. And so you'd buy stuff, but then not end up using it. And it was just really chaotic and messy and stressful. So we started as a family, we'd sit down on Sunday evening, or at least my husband and I, look at our schedules for the week, say, okay, which night can you cook or which night can you not cook? Which night do I need to do? And we'd share it out across the week. And then we'd make our shopping list based on that. So we'd literally plan the menu for the week. So it sounds really kind of OCD, but it's actually really helpful. So we're like, okay, on this night, we're going to cook this. So we need these items and we'll get those items. And then you're going to use them. And although we did it more for reasons of kind of practicality and sanity, if you like, for making sure we weren't too stressed out about the cooking stuff, we found it had a massive impact on the food that was wasted, or the amount. I mean, it just disappeared. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, we're not sort of wasting or throwing out stuff. That's a really good side effect of this.
That's
Um,
great.
and I
That's a
think
really
putting
good strategy.
Christmas.
Yeah, one
Mhm.
thing that really helped me with food waste was starting composting 100%.
Yes, yeah,
So,
that's great too.
digging it into my garden, or I had like a electric compost machine for a while that it broken, unfortunately now, but I bought it secondhand and had it
Yeah,
repaired and used it as long as I could.
yeah.
But now I just dig it in, try to crunch it into my
Mhm.
garden as much as possible,
Yeah.
do the layers of brown and green like I've been reading about. But then you just feel so much better that it's going back to earth, it's going back
Yes.
to use, it's making my garden healthier, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
that helps.
garbage
But
doesn't
yeah,
smell
not
so bad. It
yeah,
does. There's no food waste in
it
it.
doesn't.
Literally, the
Yeah,
amount of rubbish you're putting out each week, that goes right down as well. It
right
doesn't
down.
smell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kamikatsu, San Francisco, every place that does 100% composting, they
Yeah.
always say it reduces your waste by 30% immediately. And
Yeah.
we found that in our home too.
Mhm.
So about 30%. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
but I hear what you're saying about buying less, planning. Also, I really appreciate my son as a teenager. He's the Hoover. He's like the cleanup guy. So he'll just go
Yeah.
through whatever's left in the fridge, whatever leftovers, and eat it all up. So
Brilliant.
once he's not around, I have to worry more. But luckily, cleaning up the leftovers is not a problem now.
Great. I've got a few more years to wait for mine. He's still at the tricky eating stage.
Yeah. But having someone who's willing to eat leftovers is always a good thing, right? Around
Yeah,
the house.
absolutely. And getting creative with leftovers, right? So we do a lot of leftovers soup, which is
Nice.
my standard lunch through the week now when I'm working at home. So it's like, okay, whatever leftover random things from yesterday's meal or 2 days ago, or those vegetables or fruit that are looking a bit tired and you don't really want to eat fresh, like chuck it in a big bowl, whiz it all up, soup. Marvelous, warm, nutritious, and yeah.
Soup is it's such a great time of year to enjoy soup. You can get those big kabocha in the pumpkins in the supermarket, and you can just take out the seeds and boil it as is. Just give it a good wash on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. It was a brilliant soup. So you can eat the rind. You just boil it all up completely.
Yeah.
Add some salt and pepper and some soy milk, and it was so delicious and warming. I ate that for like all week last week.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah. Speaking of food,
yeah,
a little shout out. I'm trying a pop-up vegan shop this week. So if you're in the Hiroshima area, I am trying this Kind karage. So this is the time of year when everybody's talking about KFC and fried chicken. So I thought I would try to counter that by having some Kind karage. So soy meat karage, the kurumafu, the gluten karage with salad and rice. And then I'm collaborating with a great guy named James who's making homemade falafel and hummus. So we're going to have some nice vegan food. If you're in the Hiroshima area, definitely stop by. Also on the 10th, there are still tickets available for the December 10th networking and DIY and plant-based snacks and good speakers that we have. We have a local organic farmer who's going to come and sell his produce, but also talk about taking volunteers and teaching people how to do organic farming. There's also a Hiroshima designer who's going to come and tell us a little bit about what he sees with his students at some of the remodeled old temples in Hiroshima when they repair the wood. So that's really interesting. Yeah, interesting talks. We're going to do a DIY holiday craft networking. It should be fun. And that's kind of something that's leading up to our collab event, right? I'm trying these out once a month so that we're ready to go with this online and in-person event in March. So that's the idea. So there are online tickets and in-person tickets for December 10th next Friday. So get in touch or follow the link. And I think we may have covered everything, Tove. This is amazing.
Yeah, we're getting quite efficient.
So good.
Wonderful.
Any other shopping tips you have at the end?
Wow, what would be?
So I can just blast through my recommendations again. So Kokoro Care package for great locally made Japanese products from small producers. Peko Peko Box has a great variety of local artisan crafts and a little bit of food. Such cute stuff. Mikan bags. She's making kimono upcycled bags that are just gorgeous. Hataraku To, taking those road signs and reusing them, and they're waterproof. Like I love using them.
Practical.
Really useful. In Kimono, if you're looking for someone to dress you up in beautiful kimono in Tokyo, take your gorgeous shots. And we also mentioned Top Tia, right?
Yeah.
Biku Designs, if you're looking for upcycled vintage kimono materials into accessories. And UZ, they do a variety of different products. Definitely worth checking out. Japanese shop.
Yeah.
And I think that was it this time. We'll have more holiday recommendations next time for sure.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. We've got less than a minute now. Any final ways for people to get in touch with what you do? Give us a little.
So find me on LinkedIn, or my website, globalperspectives.biz. Come and talk to us about how we can help your company become more sustainable and get mindsets and behaviors aligned with your sustainability goals.
Wonderful. And you've got the link below for Global Perspectives website. I'm also revamping and adding more Japanese subtitles to 5-minute versions of my Seeking Sustainability live talk. So I'm working with a translator on that. So that's going to start going up on InboundAmbassador.com. So definitely reach out and have a look at some of these 5-minute clips.
Brilliant.
Thanks so much, Tove. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great day. Take care.
See you next week. Bye.